think, you know, the fact that Esper Control is an established deck in the format bodes well for Ryan Archer because he's more prepared for Esper Control, I think, specifically, than Esper Control would be prepared for specifically a
Yeah.
green-white aggro deck. Because green-white aggro not as much of a major player, and if you're going to build a gauntlet, green-white aggro may not even make the cut.
You can see Ryan Archer is sporting an RIW shirt. RIW, the home of some of the top players in Michigan. When we think about a lot of the Michigan players that have been playing, Ari Lax was somebody that played at RIW amongst other players. I know that Chapin has spent some time playing there. I've visited the store a few times. There's a really great community in Michigan for Magic players, and Ryan Archer, definitely somebody that if he plays at that store, you can expect that he's used to playing against some strong competition.
Looks like Ryan's going to take a mulligan here. Jonathan appears to be happy with his 7. Looks like he's already planning out his first couple of turns.
In the background, it looks like Soren is so lonely back there. He's got no friends hanging out with him.
Yeah, Soren, Lord of Innistrad, one of the marquee planeswalkers of the Dark Ascension set. And a lot of people were pretty excited about that. I remember the black-white tokens list.
Yeah, I mean, I loved that deck. Not only the black-white one, but I was playing an Esper-based tokens deck that was primarily designed by Brian Davis of former Pro Tour fame, and I did some work on it and had some great successes and a lot of near misses this last season for Pro Tour Dublin and a 4th place for the WMCQ. I'm going to miss you, Soren. You gave me a lot of wins.
Well, you can play him in Modern.
I don't know if you can. I mean,
you don't know if he's legal?
Oh, he's legal. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Joey Pasco. This is SCG Live, and we are showing you the StarCityGames.com Open Series. Yes, this weekend we are featuring the Invitational, but right now this is the top 4 of our standard Open. You should make sure that you're following us on Twitter at SCG Live. We, both Joey and I, and Ricky, and our directors, and Glenn Jones, who... Well, we are all following that SCG Live as well as that hashtag SCGInvy. Get involved in the conversation. Make sure that you are aware of what's happening. Lots of conversations happen on that hashtag. You got to find out, for example, the moment that Cedric Phillips was no longer a part of the run for the top 8 because he tweeted with the hashtag SCGInvy. You got to see all kinds of things, conversations between some of our spectators from afar. I know Brian Kibler has been using that hashtag to have a conversation with the players here, and many others. So make sure you're involved in that conversation too. And also, we do have some really, I think, awesome stuff coming from our directors, letting you know what's coming up before it happens.
And keep in mind, we will be giving away some premium access on the feed here, and you guys will be able to participate in that giveaway by participating on Twitter with that hashtag. So we're underway here in the semifinals of the Standard Open here in Indianapolis, and a turn 2 Voice of Resurgence is the first spell of the game from Ryan Archer. Jonathan Cheng with Hallowed Fountain Go on his first 2 turns. Voice of Resurgence going to connect for 2. And that voice, it's not seeing as much play as it had been previously, but it's still a very, very powerful card. Experiment 1 to follow up combat for Ryan Archer. Jonathan Cheng plays an island and passes back with 3 mana open.
We see a token created at instant speed. Look at that now. We've got 3 creatures already. Lots of power here coming. And Experiment 1, Voice of Resurgence, and Selesnya Charm representing 1/3 of Jonathan Cheng's life total right now.
Now, if Jonathan Cheng has a land, he could, at end of Ryan's turn, kill the Voice of Resurgence, untap Supreme Verdict, and clear the board.
A second voice, that is really bad.
That's going to make things a little more difficult, but...
only a land left in Ryan Archer's hand, but I don't know if it matters. In for 6.
Ryan Archer has put everything on the table here.
And Jonathan Cheng, I think he's contemplating using an Azorius Charm to perhaps put the Voice of Resurgence back on top. Put a token back on top.
He does have the Verdict, and it appears he does have the land. So
there we go. the voice back on top so that there will be a token created by both of the voices. He's got the land
And
for the
verdict,
verdict,
yeah.
so he will be essentially resetting the board with an elemental in play and a voice on top for Ryan Archer. And the damage comes in. Look at that, 5 damage, so he saved himself 1 life there. But it does mean that after the verdict hits, there will only be 1 elemental in play.
Exactly. So instead of 2/2/2s, it'll be 1/1/1. And he draws an island for the turn, plays Plains, plays Supreme Verdict, and he's going to...
Remember the regeneration ability now.
Yeah, not something I think Jonathan was taking account of, the evolve up to range where Experiment 1 could regenerate and stick around.
And it looks like there was another missed trigger there because the regeneration knocks him. No, I'm wrong. That's incorrect. He's got it right. In now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow. Ryan Archer coming out of the gate so fast.
And he needs another verdict now.
Yeah, he really does. And you can see the power of Voice of Resurgence being able to just replace itself.
He's facing lethal damage right now.
It looks like in his hand he's got a Revelation, a Dissolve, not quite sure what else. But he is in the tank, back against the wall at 7 life here, 5 minutes into these semifinals. He's going to go ahead and cast a Sphinx's Revelation main phase for just 2. It's going to put him up to 9. It will keep him out of... it will keep him alive through the next turn, barring any more power added to the board. And it gets him 2 more cards, so it might just be enough.
This is going to be a big hit. And remember, after he, let's pretend, draws a Supreme Verdict, there will still be a 1/1 Elemental.
Absolutely. So we'll see what he can do to get out of it. Draws a land, and I don't think he's got anything to interact with the board. I think he's got a couple of Dissolves, a Sphinx's Revelation, and lands. So if he could, yeah, that's not enough. He's gonna have to. If I'm correct, there's nothing he can do to get out of the next turn's combat unless Ryan forgets to attack. Not likely.
And this is the power of an aggro deck here with such resilient cards like Voice of Resurgence and Experiment 1. Jonathan Cheng, wow, he's like, that was fast.
Yeah, one thing that I think it wouldn't have really cost any more, very much more time, but I think Jonathan Cheng should have played a land and passed back to give Ryan, the opportunity to make a mistake maybe, and maybe not somehow attack for lethal. I don't think that was going to happen, but rather than just give up right there. So,
well, besides that winning of that game, we've got another winner out there that we're going to find by the end of this round. One of the things that we do at every single one of these Star City Games events is we give away various prizes via trivia. It's our SCG Premium giveaway contest. Our trivia this event is going to be giving away premium Star City Games content. So with that hashtag SCG Premium, we'll ask a trivia question. And you at home, what you will do is if you answer the trivia question on Twitter using the hashtag that you can see here, SCG Premium.
Yeah, right down there in the middle.
One person who gets the correct answer and also uses that hashtag will be selected at random to receive a prize. In the semifinals, it's 6 free months of Star City Games Premium.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to give away right now. So our question for you guys, we have 4 invitationals a year. This happens to be our 3rd invitational of 2013. Our last invitational took place back in July. Who was the previous invitational winner? So you guys just put that answer up on Twitter with the hashtag SCG Premium. You don't even have to tweet it at SCG Live. As long as you have the hashtag SCG Premium, you are in the running for, and you have to have the correct answer.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to answer, I don't know, Mike Tyson, that wouldn't work.
Are you just giving it away now, huh?
Oh, oops.
So, yeah, onto the sideboards. Let's take a look.
Well, one of the things I see looking here at Ryan Archer's sideboard is Ryan has possible, we'll call them fake counterspells. His white spells, God's Willing and Brave the Elements, being cards that he can use to counter a targeted removal spell.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, this isn't a true counter spell, but I mean, it does stop the mana use from Jonathan Cheng. Jonathan might tap to try to remove a creature, and Ryan has the ability to say no. And we also see he's got 3 Mistcutter Hydras. Those are going to be valuable against the possibilities of counter magic, good against Attention Spear, good against Azorius Charm. And other than that, I think the other cards are probably going to stay in the sideboard. He might consider bringing in 1 Pithing Needle against the Planeswalkers, but personally I don't like that so much. No more than 1 would be the amount I would say. 2 Unflinching Courage, 2 Pithing Needle, 1 Druid's Deliverance, 1 Trostani, 1 Sign of Vitu-Ghazi, 2 Banisher Priest, 1 Last Breath. Now it's possible that a card like Sign of Vitu-Ghazi is also valuable. I have not played this card outside of drafting it. So I'm not sure how it plays out in Constructed, but clearly Ryan Archer here, our number 3 seed after a 10-round standard tournament with about 700 players in it, it's got to be something worth thinking about.
Absolutely, and we've seen previous limited all-stars making their way to the constructed tables in the form of Pack Rat over the past couple of weeks, and I'm not saying Scion of Vitu-Ghazi is anywhere near the quality of Pack Rat, but I think just because a card hasn't seen play in constructed doesn't mean it can't make the jump from limited. On the other side of the table, of course, Jonathan Cheng with that Esper control list. The big 5 I see in his sideboard to bring in. He's got 2 copies of Ratchet Bomb. That does a nice job of dealing with those elemental tokens from Voice of Resurgence. And 3 copies of Blood Baron of this Copa as well.
So we're going right back to that. Okay. So apparently, one of the things we need to re-ask for all of you at home, just in case you didn't get it before, our premium giveaway question that was asked by Joey Pasco. Remember, in order to do this correctly, you need to have the hashtag SCGPremium. The trivia question that Joey Pasco asked is, who was the champion of the last SCG Invitational? So make sure you answer that premium trivia question with the hashtag SCGPremium. You don't need to put anything else in there besides the answer and hashtag SCGPremium, and 1 player amongst you will be selected to receive 6 free months of Star City Games Premium. Jonathan Cheng, you were talking about his sideboarding here. He's on the play after sideboarding. I don't know. Do you think that he gets much out of it? I see Ratchet Bombs.
The Ratchet Bomb's the other card to me. Blood Baron of Vizkopa having a 4/4 lifelink. Yeah, pro white, pro black. He does actually get some benefit out of having pro white in this matchup. What we've seen all weekend from Blood Baron of Vizkopa was the pro black being the relevant part of the card, but being pro white is quite relevant in this matchup. But I think more relevant is just 4/4 lifelinker.
Yep.
Against an aggressive deck like this.
We see a Mistcutter Hydra amongst many of the cards in Ryan Archer's hand. I see that Blood Baron you mentioned from Jonathan Cheng.
Yeah, he's got that in his opener. Let's see if he can survive long enough to cast it and have it make an impact.
A timely Blood Baron was a part of the victory for Harry Corvesi in a match that he could not have otherwise won. It was barely able to pull him through in Game 3 yesterday. Well, let's see what it does for Jonathan Cheng today.
So Jonathan cycles an Azorius Charm at the end of Ryan's turn, draws into a second Azorius Charm, and now on his 3rd turn is going to cast a Divination, finding a Watery Grave and a mystery card. May have been a Ratchet Bomb. Those foils sometimes can be deceiving. Looks like he's got a Hero's Downfall as well in hand.
Sounds like we have our first result in from the rest of the event. Jacob Bow has won Game 1 against Esper Control with the black-based deck splashing green.
So Ryan Archer's first play of the game is a Loxodon Smiter, a 4/4 for 3. Can't be countered. It's a pretty formidable threat, so it's something that Jonathan's going to want to deal with as soon as possible because 4 power is quite a bit this early in the game.
Ratchet Bomb that we talked
Ratchet
about.
Bomb, yeah.
One of the things that's very dangerous about Ryan Archer's deck is that it can lay out a swarm or it can lay out a single powerful creature and have that creature be so big that you actually just have to respect it. 4 mana.
Yeah, forest for Ryan Archer. I believe he's got a Polukranos in hand. He's at least got a Boon Satyr. He's going to go ahead and attack with this Loxodon Smiter, and it is time for a Azorius Charm, potentially? Or does Jonathan want to use his life total as a resource here, as they say, and go to 16? No, he's going to go ahead and Azorius Charm on the Smiter. Puts the Smiter back on top of Ryan's library, and that's going to be followed up by a Pelucranos from Ryan.
Pelucranos, only a one of in this deck, and I've seen a lot of players who have tried to run many Pelucranos in decks. I think unless you're doing something tricksy, like the Mihara's Monsters list with the 4 Nykthos, I think that it's not unreasonable to run a smaller number of this legendary creature. You want in your aggressive decks, the decks that are planning on attacking, you want to be able to make use of every single card and not end up having to hold back. I definitely have seen draws where Mihara's deck would have a Pelucranos and have it sitting in hand not doing anything with no other real action going on. But because the deck was able to create so much mana, it didn't really matter. That was enough. These other decks without the ability to Nykthos them, it's just not as impressive, and so running a smaller number makes a lot of sense to me. Jonathan Cheng wasting no time to kill that creature.
Yeah, Jonathan Cheng's remaining hand is double Supreme Verdict, Blood Baron, and Hero's Downfall. So he's got quite a bit of answers to Ryan's deck, and we're going to see.
Scion of Vitu-Ghazi. Wow, okay. So if you have not played the draft format of Return to Ravnica, it's possible that you have not seen this card. As you said before, this is in many ways a Cloud Goat Ranger, a classic. This gives you 6 power. You get 1 free bird, and then you populate. So if you've got something better than a bird, you could have as much as like a bird and an Advent of the Worm token created by the Scion of Vitu-Ghazi.
Yeah, in this particular case, it draws out one of those Supreme Verdicts, which is, it's a 1-for-1, but sort of a 3-for-1 kind of situation going on there.
Well, ultimately, in the end, 1 card was traded for 1 card,
exactly.
Right? So we had Ryan Archer play a card and get 3 cards for it, and then we had Jonathan play a card and destroy 3 cards for it.
Yeah.
So to speak.
So far so good for the Esper Control player in this particular game. He is still sitting at 20 life.
And what Ryan Archer here is doing, I believe, with regards to the Ratchet Bomb in play, he's pointing at his Mistcutter Hydra. He wants to know what the converted casted cost of his Mistcutter Hydra is. And the answer depends. If it's on the stack, it's green plus X. So a Mistcutter Hydra here cast with all of that mana would be a converted casting cost on the stack of 6. But once it hits play, it gets those 5 counters, and it no longer remembers that it had once been a spell. And so it only has a green for its casting cost, and a Ratchet Bomb for 1 would kill a Mistcutter Hydra, no matter how large.
I think that shows you the power of Ratchet Bomb and the versatility of a card like Ratchet Bomb in these kind of strange little situations. It's a card that seems like a slow answer, and a lot of times, in a lot of cases, it feels that way when you're playing it, when you're trying to destroy something that costs even as low as 3. You've got to let the Ratchet Bomb stick around for 3 turns before you get there. So it feels like such a slow answer, but in this case, it could very well be much more relevant against the Mistcutter Hydra. So
Smiter comes back down. We saw this a few turns earlier. Azorius Charm had put it back on top of the library.
So that is the return of the Loxodon Smiter, and Jonathan puts a 4/4 of his own onto the battlefield, a Blood Baron of Vizkopa. And it's protection from white, so that means it can get in front of the Smiter and live.
Boon Satyr is an instant in this case. Boon Satyr,
Blood Baron.
Yeah, Blood Baron, an awesome card. Boon Satyr, one of the new cards that's seeing some play. I've been seeing Boon Satyr in practically all of the aggressive decks that run green.
It is a very, very good creature. You get that flash ability, which always comes in handy, as you can see there. Ryan was able to wait until the end of Jonathan's turn to play that. And you know when that can be more relevant is when Jonathan says Supreme Verdict go, and Ryan says, all right, I have no guys. I'll play a guy at the end of your turn and then get to untap with a guy on the board even though you just cleared it. So Ryan Archer with an An offense of Boon Satyr and Loxodon Smiter, but being held off right now by a Blood Baron of Viscopa. And Mistcutter Hydra is going to join the force alongside that Boon Satyr and come in swinging. No Smiter this time, considering its interaction with Blood Baron is not too favorable for Ryan.
Jonathan Cheng hits it, just takes the 9 damage, it looks like. And I think he might just swing back and then use the Ratchet Bomb to kill that Hydra. Alternately, what he could do is swing back. And you said that he had a Supreme Verdict in hand?
He has a second Supreme Verdict in hand.
I mean, that wouldn't be too terrible there, getting the 4 life back and clearing off the board, still having a Ratchet Bomb in play.
If he could somehow blink out the Blood Baron, that would be pretty good, but that doesn't work that way.
I don't know that Blood Baron needs to be that good. Okay, instead he chooses to get rid of that Mistcutter Hydra, and he has Far Away. That is exciting.
That's like another Supreme Verdict.
And so he bounces the Smiter, puts the Boon Satyr in the graveyard because it's the only creature left to be sacrificed, and in for 4, recouping 4 of that life. Ryan Archer drops to 16, Jonathan Cheng up to 15.
Now, while that Blood Baron is on the board, you saw how the Smiter was effectively neutered, so that's why Jonathan Cheng chose to bounce the Smiter, saying, hey, okay, Ryan, you can have the Smiter back. Go ahead and replay it. I'm fine with it. I've got a Blood Baron in play. Smiter not too scary.
Okay, we see immediately the Fleecemane Lion comes into play. Ryan Archer paid 2 life for his Temple Garden, so he could have the 5 mana to make that an indestructible hexproof 4/4.
Yeah, and post Far Away, that's an extremely good play because Jonathan Cheng only has access to 1 Far Away in the deck, so he can't force Ryan to sacrifice it.
That means actually there are no cards in Jonathan Cheng's deck that can remove that Fleecemane Lion. However, the Blood Baron is doing a pretty good job of playing negation to that card. See Smiter.
Yeah, double Smiter on board now alongside the Fleecemane Lion.
He can interact with those cards.
He certainly can. Blood Baron does a good job of it. Also, Hero's Downfall can take care of one of them, and that's the case here with Jonathan Cheng decides to go with that route. Again, he does still have a Supreme Verdict. He's got a Detention Sphere as well, so that can interact with the Smiter. And as you mentioned, Blood Baron being able to go on offense and keep recouping that life. There you see a Detention Sphere come down and take out the other Smiter, so Ryan left with just that Fleecemane Lion.
Is that a Pithing Needle in his hand?
Couldn't see it. Fleecemane Lion going to connect, but Jonathan Cheng still at a very healthy life total at this point in the game, and I think Jonathan's going to have this one, especially the fact that he just drew a second copy of Blood Baron.
Ryan Archer here, he's got a very powerful clock in play, but it can't block the Blood Baron, and the lifelink from Blood Baron is just doing a huge amount of work on Ryan. What he really needs to have happen is he really needs to have an Advent of the Worm token come in the way of that Blood Baron and have the Advent of the Worm token not die. I think I see Advent of the Worm. Here it comes. Boom! From the ground. Wait, what's going to happen, though? I think, is it going to downfall?
Yeah, Hero's Downfall.
And that is all she wrote. And that was a Pithing Needle hanging out in Ryan Archer's hand. Now, Pithing Needle brought in from the sideboard primarily to answer the Planeswalkers. And like I said, I would say at most I would consider running one of these. But as a deck like Green-White Aggro, I actually feel more comfortable with 0. Mostly because even though a card like Elspeth is very, very powerful, I would rather, if I'm trying to answer a card like Elspeth, use a card like Advent of the Worm, use a card like Brave the Elements, do something that can be more active to kill the card rather than reacting.
Yeah, and it has more value. Advent of the Worm has value outside of just attacking Elspeth, and Brave the Elements has value outside of just dealing with Elspeth. But Pithing Needle pretty much just deals with Elspeth or Jace. But yeah, as an answer card, it doesn't really threaten your opponent at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that if that card had been, I don't know which one of these sideboard cards that it would have replaced. certainly if it had been a creature of some kind, or if it had been a root-born defenses there would have meant that the hero's downfall wouldn't have killed his advent. I don't know what was replaced to put in room for a pithing needle, so there's no telling what card it would have been. But looking at this sideboard, I think that the cards I like, 3 Muskcutter Hydra, I think I like. I like 1 Scion of Vichugazi. I like 1 Brave the Elements. I like 1 God's Willing.
Yeah, and going back to Pithing Needle, think about this. Ryan's holding Pithing Needle, and it's a dead card in his hand if there's nothing there to answer. And if he plays it, it's a dead card on board if there's nothing there. You know, if whatever he names isn't drawn on the other side of the board. So it can actually just be a completely dead card and totally irrelevant if Jonathan doesn't draw or play one of the cards that Ryan would potentially name.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about obviously Ryan Archer has played this matchup all day, and it's possible that, say, a card like Jace, Architect of Thought, it's possible that that card is just so good against him he needs to Pithing Needle it. But my instincts say that if we use an old classic idea that something Mike Flores has written about quite often, threat theory, answer theory, it's better to be the person that has the threat than the answer. And a part of the reason why is there are, to quote Dave Price, there are no wrong threats, only wrong answers.
Yeah. And Pithing Needle was not the correct answer to Blood Baron of Vizkopa, as we saw in that last game. So things all evened up here. 1 game apiece. Ryan Archer with green-white aggro versus Jonathan Cheng and Esper Control, our 7th seed, taking on our 3 seed. Here in the semifinals of the StarCityGames.com Open Series, featuring the Invitational, coming to you guys live from Indianapolis, where this is actually the Standard Open. The actual Invitational will be coming up later this morning at around 11 a.m. We'll be covering the top 8. We'll begin our coverage of the top 8 of the Invitational itself as these players evaluate their openers. I see a Pithing Needle over there in Ryan's hand again.
I do.
But Jonathan Cheng is going to go ahead and take a mulligan. So it's kind of like he's drawing 7, but one of them is a Pithing Needle. Is that? Sorry, I don't mean to keep making fun of Pithing Needle. I certainly play it myself.
I'm a big fan of the card. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a card that's very, very powerful. I just don't know that I like it in this matchup.
I agree. But yeah, Ryan has different ideas, and I can certainly see. You know, we would be maybe saying completely different things if Jonathan had won that last game with Elspeth and Ryan hadn't drawn Pithing Needle. We may be saying something a little different. We may feel a little differently.
I mean, I think that dedicating 1 card, as I said at the very beginning of the sideboarding, dedicating 1 card to Pithing Needle from your sideboard, he's got 2 in his board. That's not unreasonable, but it's a little bit more than I would like to do, mostly because I feel like you want to be trying to be the aggressor, and being a card that's an answer in that way it does not help so much. It doesn't protect your creatures, you know, that kind of thing. And if Ryan boarded in 2, I definitely think 2 is far too many. I can see an argument for 1, that you're not going to have it get in the way too much. It's only going to be 1 card that's not furthering your aggressive plan. But if there's a second one, that's definitely too much.
So what do you think of Fleece Mane Lion?
You
we
know,
saw it last game, and
I have to say that I have not seen a deck that runs Fleece Mane Lion where I liked the deck. I mean, and not to say that Ryan Archer's deck isn't good. I'm talking about that I wouldn't want to play that deck if I had other choices available. And it's mostly that I think that that style of deck, you know, I'm told that green-white aggro is supposed to be good against red, but in my experience that hasn't been the case. And Fleece Mane Lion, a very good card in an archetype that I'm not very fond of right now.
trying to take a peek at Jonathan's hand. He did keep his 6. Okay, he does have at least 2 lands. I think he's got 2 copies of Ultimate Price, a Supreme Verdict, and at least 1 Sphinx's Revelation, possibly 2.
Was that a second needle?
Experiment 1 is the play, and it does appear that Ryan Archer has both Pithing Needles in his hand. So still has a threat on the table. Experiment 1 will do damage, as Jonathan Cheng plays his first 2 lands being Scry lands and manipulating the top of his library. Ryan Archer's turn 2 play is a Mistcutter Hydra for 2. Not extremely scary, but when it evolves the Experiment 1, it's going to crash in for quite a bit of damage here on turn 2, knocking Jonathan to 16.
And we're taking a 20-turn clock and making it a 5-turn clock.
Yeah.
And obviously Jonathan Cheng is going to interrupt that math with some removal spells.
Now he's got a 3rd Scryland. That's a Temple of Silence, so scry something to the bottom there, and I can see a Temple of Deceit in hand waiting for the 4th turn. Now what he'd like, I think, is a land that comes into play untapped so that he can cast Supreme Verdict if necessary next turn. And but until then, I think he's going to have to use these ultimate prices to kind of keep his life total out of the danger zone.
In for 4.
And now we're going to see an ultimate price on a Mistcutter Hydra or an Experiment 1. Oh, he goes with the Experiment 1.
Kills the Experiment 1 lest it get too big.
Yeah, that Mistcutter Hydra unlikely to grow any further. But the Experiment 1, not the case. So with 4 mana open, Ryan Archer passes the turn, no threat.
Well, I mean, he didn't play into a Supreme Verdict there, but what he could have done, Ryan Archer could have cast a Advent of the Worm in response to that, and then had a evolution of his Experiment 1, and then regenerated from that.
Wow, yeah, interesting play.
I mean, granted, that is his last threat then that would be deployed.
And that's what he's going to do here.
But
as
he's
Jonathan
deploying
Cheng,
it anyway.
Yeah, Jonathan Cheng passes the turn, and Advent of the Worm comes down, and Jonathan immediately answers it with an ultimate price.
Yeah, you don't want to have that card get answered by, your ultimate price get answered by a Rootborn Defenses. In for 2, Jonathan Cheng's life total dropping ever further down. 2 Pithing Needles sitting in hand.
Yeah, Ryan Archer's hand is 2 Pithing Needles and a Forest. Jonathan Cheng now does not hit his 5th land drop. He does have Supreme Verdict, but is not the Mistcutter Hydra not worth the verdict at this point. And it's possible we even see a cycled Sphinx's Revelation here. No, he's going to go ahead and Hero's Downfall and take out the Hydra. And the board is entirely clear of all non-land permanents.
Land, Pithing Needle from Archer.
Yeah, draws for
something
the turn.
now.
Finds a Plains, I think. Actually, his hand is still land, needle. And Jonathan finds a Plains, and he's a little more happy to find land, go. Yeah, it's just land, go. And here comes Sphinx's Revelation number 1 for 3 cards. Jonathan Cheng going to go up to 13, going to get 3 more cards here at the end of Ryan's turn. He's going to untap. He's going to hit his 7th land drop here. And he's got a Verdict. He's got another Revelation. I believe he's got a Detention Sphere in hand. Jonathan Cheng in reasonable shape considering Archer cannot even present a threat in a deck that is built around threats.
And another Sphinx's Revelation. This game is falling away. Apparently, in the other match, Harry Corvasi has won a game, making it a 1-1 game in the other Esper Control matchup. Esper Control in Harry Corvasi's hand against Jacob Bao playing black, splashing green.
Detention Sphere off the top for Jonathan Cheng, and that will be his 2nd copy in hand. Now, he's going to play Jace, Architect of Thought. He's going to likely -2 it, I would think, here.
Well, he's got so many cards in his hand that he might as well plus it. Yeah,
maybe I'm just thinking about the fact that the needle's there, and it's going to likely come down. Brian at least getting some value out of those Pithing Needles that are sitting in hand.
With a Detention Sphere, he's going to get value out of it if he wants.
That's true. So it looks like was that a Fleece Main Lion off the top?
That is a Fleece Main Lion.
All right, so finally Ryan finds a threat after what seems like 6 or 7 consecutive turns without one, and Fleece Main Lion on the stack. Jonathan Cheng says, okay, it resolves. Pithing Needle on Jace, all right? And
he passes. That's...
Now he can,
he's got a far away, so it's not even going to matter.
Yeah.
The away portion, it doesn't matter whether it's indestructible, hexproof, whatever. You still have to sacrifice the lion.
And he's going to go ahead and just use it. It would be nice to get him when he activates Monstrous, but he's not doing anything with that mana anyway. So it doesn't really matter. He's not really getting any value. So away with the Lion, and Blood Baron of Viscopa joins Jace on board. Jace, who is right now Pithing Needled. Ratchet Bomb also comes down, and Jonathan Cheng passes with just one Temple of Silence untapped. So Scion of V2 Ghazi is the play off the top for Ryan Archer.
2 birds, 1 bird, and then a populate. And I think we're, oh wow, Jonathan Cheng, he's going to try to put a 1 on the, yep, Ratchet Bomb up to 1. And we're going to see that Ratchet Bomb probably blow up almost immediately in order to get rid of the Pithing Needle.
Yeah, he could blow up the Ratchet Bomb. Is it supposed to be tapped up there? Was that an end of turn, or was that the beginning of?
I am not sure about the timing of when that was officially declared.
Divination is cast from Jonathan Cheng. Finds at least another copy of Jace. He found an island. He does have an Azorius Charm, 2 Detention Spheres in hand. He's going to... Yeah, now he's directing it. Yeah. So what he could do, he's going to go ahead and crash in for 4 here. The Scion and those birds can't block the Blood Baron, as we saw last game. That pro-white being very, very relevant for Jonathan Cheng in this matchup. He's going to go up to 19. He can, if he wants, destroy that needle. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and Detention Sphere the Scion itself. And I'm surprised he didn't destroy the needle and just plus the Jace.
I think he's leaving it up in case a Mistcutter Hydra comes down.
Okay.
I mean,
he's not really in bad shape. He's in great shape, actually. So Ryan left with just 2 bird tokens, which will not put up much of a fight against the Blood Baron.
Is this another Fleece Mane Lion?
Looks like it could be, or it could be a Voice of Resurgence. He's going to go ahead and attack with those 2 birds, get in some damage where he can, even though Jonathan's going to be able to recoup some of that.
Is that a Vitu Ghazi Guildmage?
It appears to be.
Okay, we're going to bring up the Vitu Ghazi Guildmage so that you can see it at home. This is a white-green for a 2/2. We can see Jonathan Cheng untapping here. He still has that Ratchet Bomb hanging out at 1. I wonder if he's going to break it so that he can get rid of that Pithing Needle and start maybe getting some protection there. Blood Baron comes on in again.
And it looks like a second Blood Baron is the play from Jonathan Cheng, making things quite difficult. There you see the V2 Ghazi Guildmage, a 2/2 for 2. You can make centaurs, and you can populate, and that's exactly what Ryan's going to do with all that mana. But Ryan at 12, facing down 2 Blood Barons, and he only has 1 creature that can block them. There you see the 2 birds going to get in.
Look at that. He's got so much mana that Vitu Ghazi Guildmage is going to create a ton of centaurs, and he can create these at instant speed. And Jonathan Cheng brings the Ratchet Bomb up to 2. He sees that as a real issue.
I mean, he has Detention Sphere if he wanted to take out the Guildmage, but he decides he wants to use the Ratchet Bomb for it, or at least that's what it looks like. A Divination from Jonathan. Finds a Doomblade and a Supreme Verdict.
Oh, well, there's a good card.
Well, he doesn't want to verdict away his Blood Barons. Is that the
he
good
might.
card you were talking
I mean,
about?
honestly, the both of them are very good. He goes, let's say, how about we kill some stuff? And Ryan Archer populates, creates a centaur. I think we're going to see a Detention Sphere at the end of all this population. So he's just leaving that Ratchet Bomb out there to remind everyone that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's blowing up. There's 1 centaur, 2 centaurs.
It's a slow motion explosion.
9 green power on the board, and now I think we're going to see the sphere by centaurs.
Detention Sphere on your centaurs, and Blood Barons crash in for 8. Ryan Archer to 4. Needs to find an answer to those Blood Barons, and I don't know that it's there. And it is not. Jonathan Cheng with Esper Control takes down Ryan Archer and green-white aggro 2-1 here in the semifinals of the standard portion of the StarCityGames.com Open Series, featuring the Invitational live from Indianapolis.